Y'all know what stood out to me about the Quiet on the Set docuseries? The fact that so many things went over our heads. Like, we all focused on the interviews and stuff, sure, and that's important, but there were so many things that we kind of brushed over because we were so focused on the individuals. The fact that these people put sexual adult themes in children's shows is very telling, and I'm going to say why. As a child growing up watching those shows, sometimes my mom would watch them with me. I never noticed any of that stuff, and neither did she. Had she noticed, she wouldn't have let me watch it because it would have been inappropriate. But we didn't notice it because those messages weren't intended for children or well-meaning adults. And that's the terrifying part about these people being the predators that they are. Not only are they preying on children and creating positions and jobs for themselves to be in close proximity with kids, they're giving these other pedos a piece of the pie. All of that stuff that we were seeing, like the squirting on the face, the potato stuff, the foot stuff, the little boy with the costume with the noses that look like what they look like, all of that stuff was put in there to appeal to other predators. Because who else is going to notice it in that way? They're the only ones who would. And the only reason we're seeing it now is because all of these allegations are coming out. So it gives us a different lens to look through. But all of that stuff was intentionally put in there for those people to get off. And that is the most terrifying part about that documentary, in my opinion. That's sick. Like, not only are you putting yourself in a position to prey on children, you're allowing the world to do it and you're profiting off of it. Terrifying. Another thing that I want to touch on is the parents. And y'all, I understand that you're not going to catch everything as a parent. I try to give parents a little bit of grace, but in this situation, I can't really give them that courtesy because they all said the same thing. I didn't want to ruin an opportunity for my child. I didn't want to take away their chances. So that means that you saw the red flags, but you chose to overlook them because you thought your child could profit off of them or you could profit by way of your child. A lot of those people are living vicariously through their children. Like the one lady who allowed that grown man to have access to her daughter through the chat room, and then he sends her a naked picture of him masturbating, and she says, well, I didn't know if I should call the police because I didn't want to be perceived as a bad parent. You're a bad parent because you didn't call. You're a bad parent because you let that go. Now, she didn't remove her child from the industry, but it should have never gotten that far. Like, the only real one was Drake Bell's parent, his dad. He was the only one who was like, I don't like this. And he noticed it. Now, I feel like I would have taken it a bit further. I'm going to tell you, don't touch my kid. You're not going to be alone with my child ever. And he did do his best. So I got to give him props for that. You know, but the thing we have to remember about groomers is that they're not only grooming the child, they groom everybody. And if they fixated on a particular child, they're going to do everything they can to get that child alone. So that's why Peck drove a wedge between Drake and his dad, because he needed to get him on his own, because he knew the dad, with him, he's going to have limited access. So he had to get him out the way, and it worked. And that's unfortunate. And he's the one parent on there who I felt actually cared about his kid. It wasn't about the kid's money and all that type of stuff. It was about his son. He actually cared. So I got to give him props. Now, the mom, Drake Bell's mom, I know she wasn't on there to speak for herself, but if that's really how it went down and she just completely ignored that and allowed her son to be alone with a grown man and spend the night at his house and all this stuff as a minor, she totally dropped the ball. And that's what I'm saying. So while I want to extend grace to them, I can only take it so far because too many people overlook certain things. And she had a straight up warning from the dad, like, hey, look, don't let him around him. I don't care if you take the money. I don't care what y'all do. Protect him from this man. She should have listened to that, and she didn't. So, you know, another thing is Amanda Bynes. There was a lot of talk about her, and I get why. It's because she was one of Dan's biggest proteges and one of the biggest child stars. But the fact that this man has so much access to this little girl should have been questionable to everybody. Like, after seeing all these pictures and stuff of them together and the way he would position himself around her, things like that, it's just so inappropriate. But the thing is, people got to leave Amanda alone because she was airing this stuff out, and everybody dismissed her as crazy, as people always do. They always want to talk about what you're doing, the outlandish behavior, and make jokes and make fun. And we've all heard over and over again that the downward spiral of the child star is because of Hollywood, because it's predatory. So why would we overlook that? Why would we call this woman crazy when we know that she's been in an industry that's been predatory and has always been, you know? So I think we all as people got to do a better job of that and stop making fun of people's trauma so much. Stop taking everything as a joke and being quick to call people crazy when they do something out of the ordinary, because something drove them to that. If they weren't that way before, then something caused it. And to the parents, your children are not supposed to be the breadwinners. If it's about acting, about the craft, or whatever it is that they love to do, those kids can do local theater. They don't have to be in Hollywood until they're old enough to advocate for themselves. But a lot of these parents were living vicariously through their kids, or they just wanted a quick cash grab and a soft life. And these children were putting that pressure on themselves to provide that for them, which was unfair all the way around. So that's why so many of these things happen. And we got to do a better job of protecting kids all the way around. Everybody, even those who don't have kids. Like, we should all have our head on a swivel when it comes to this, because there's too many crazy people in the world. And this documentary shows that these people are doing this shit in plain sight. Now, just a word of caution to anybody who's going to watch it. If you have been a victim of SA or you're sensitive to such things, my heart goes out to you, and please be careful with yourself when you watch it because it can trigger things. So take it in doses. If you're going to watch it, gauge it. Watch one episode, see how you do, but don't just sit and watch the whole thing because you might end up in a downward spiral. Love y'all.